Hello everyone, hope everyone's doing good. So when it comes to fountain pens, one thing that I always want to emphasize to people is fountain pen ownership need not be expensive. And entry kind of gateway to the fountain pen hobby is typically through the use of purchasing a pen from China or maybe even from India. So today I wanted to look at a pen which I've had for a while, which is the Wingsung 3013. Pretty affordable fountain pen. We'll go through what the pen looks like, how it writes, and I'll give a little bit of summary at the end of the writing sample. So as you can tell, the 3013 comes in various colors. I'll just pick this particular one, which is in a rather fetching color, shade of purple. I have it inked up with Asa-Gao from Herlitz. And just looking through the actual pen finish-wise, what I find pretty attractive is the fact that they actually put facets, cutouts on the cap, as well as at the piston area when you're operating the vacuum filler. So that's nice that they incorporated details like this. And we'll go through the price of the pen right at the end of the video. So looking at the very top of the pen, you get a finial like cap, very plain. Nothing wrong with it, but it's just a plain cap. You get the clip, which on my samples, they tend to have a little bit of wiggle. Otherwise, they clip relatively securely. As you can tell, the cap is transparent, so you can actually see the nib inside the pen. Then you come down to the center band, where it's written Yongsheng, which stands for forever living, or live forever in Chinese. And then you have 3013 written down here. So what's nice about the cap is this cap band would prevent cracking of the cap because it's kind of like a brace effect. Inside the cap, you can see that little Phillips screw that's holding the cap, the clip down. So perhaps if you tighten that screw, this mechanism will become a little bit tighter. Looking at the body of the pen, like I mentioned, from the back, you get the piston mechanism, which you can unscrew pretty carefully since this pen is inked up. And what I like to do whenever I buy a pen, could be any pen which I buy that has screw threads, especially those that are made with metal. I always like to put a dab of silicone grease. This is actually from the TWSBI pens. And I'll always like to grease up those threads a little bit, and we'll get to the reason why later on. I like to grease anywhere that I see threads. That will actually help prolong or make the pen feel a little bit better when it comes to operating things like the piston and so on. You get that rod in the middle, which tells you that the 3013 is actually a vacuum filler, or what they call a negative pressure pen. Basically, once you unscrew this, you just pull out the entire piston, dip it into ink. Once you push the mechanism back, the ink will be drawn in to the vacuum that's created down here. Then you get the section area. So later on, I'm just going to unscrew this particular one to show you how it works, but the section area can be unscrewed. There is a significant drop-off point, which is quite sharp from the main body down to the section area. Screw threads themselves aren't that super uncomfortable, but you can definitely feel them. These are not like high-end screw threads, which are smooth in the higher-end pens. You can see O-rings down here, which prevent the pen or kind of help prevent against leakages from the cap. And then you have the section itself. I've measured it before. It's about 10.5 millimeters in girth, right in the middle part of the pen. And that to me represents a pretty comfortable section for me, right? I don't have the issue of needing to hold the pen this far back so that I can feel these sharp edges. So that's good for me. In terms of length of the section, it's about 1 inch. So there's plenty of space for you to kind of shuffle around if you like to hold the pen a bit forward or a bit back. Balance-wise, this being a vacuum filler, you would expect the weight to kind of be at this point, which is slightly to the rear of the pen. Incidentally, you can, I don't think you can post, and it probably doesn't need to be posted because the pen itself is rather, it's a decent length at 13.2 millimeters long. So as you can see, I have medium-sized hands. I have no problem using this pen unposted. So going to the end of the pen, which is where the nib is, you get a nib which is roughly the size of a number 5 Pilot, right? So it's not the biggest nib out there, and the feed is nothing special as well, right? So when I bought this pen, it was only available in extra fine and fine. I got all of my pens in extra fine since I like extra fine. One thing about the nib is you can interchange the nib with a nib from this nib with a nib from a Pilot number 5 pen. So for example, this Kakuno down here, you can actually interchange this just by pulling out the nib from the Pilot, just taking the metal part, the metal nib, and putting it into the feed of the Wing Sung, and it will work fine, right? So pretty much any number 5 Pilot would kind of fit, is my guess. Although I've only tried it with the steel nibbed Pilots. So before I get into the writing, I just wanted to kind of show you guys there's another variant of the 3013, which is this particular one that I have. That's main differences would be the clip is a different shape. This looks a little bit like a sailor clip. The cap doesn't have facets, it's just clear plastic. The logo down here for Wing Sung, there's no Chinese name down here, and even the 3013 looks a bit different in this version that I have. The piston mechanism down here is also smooth. So just be aware that there's actually 2 versions of this pen, at least as far as I know. The problem with this particular one, which I have, which is why I didn't ink it up, is I'm not sure whether you can make it out. Mine actually has cracks along the bottom of the barrel, right? Which is a shame because out of all the colors that I have, I actually like the clear one the best. The other problem which I have with this particular one is the screw threads down here have actually seized up, right? So which kind of explains why I told you guys probably a good idea to kind of apply silicone grease anywhere where there's metal threads to prevent this from happening. Incidentally, for this particular one, I can still go ahead to fill up the pen just by unscrewing the front grip section and then maybe using a syringe or something like that to fill the pen from this side of the pen rather from the back. You'll also note that I have actually taken a Plumix nib, right, and shoved it into this particular pen. I kept the feet, like I mentioned earlier on. Although the Pilot feet might fit as well, I haven't tried that. But with this, you have the option of putting in this. In this case, it's a stub from a Plumix, and it works well to replace the nib which the 3013 comes with, which is actually no slouch anyway, right? So going on to the writing, I'm going to raise the table a little bit. And I'm just going to show you a little bit of writing. So this brown pen is inked up with, and I'll just write. and this is an extra fine, and it's inked up with Waterman. My go-to ink for a lot of my pens. However, this one is, like I mentioned earlier on, is inked up with Asa-Gao, right? And so this one is also a Wing Sung. So I can tell just by the feel of using all these pens, the stock one that came with this one as well, that there's a little bit of variance when it comes to the pen. This particular one, the purple one, is extremely smooth, right? And the nib actually, for this particular one, displays a tiny bit of line variation. So you can actually push the nib a little bit if you wanted to. So basically, you know, get that effect of variation. In terms of wetness, it's not the wettest pen out there. So just be aware that the stock nib isn't the wettest. The other thing to take note of is, you know, comparing with my Kakuno, incidentally, which is 3 times the price of the 3013, the Kakuno's line, right, just, you can tell straight away that the Pilot, and this is also an extra fine, the Kakuno's line is way finer than the Wing Sung's, right, for an extra fine. So that's another reason why being able to swap these two pens is a kind of a great option. And as you can tell, the Pilot feed is actually a lot wetter. I think this is, I'm not sure what, I think this is also inked up with, it's inked up with a different ink. However, I think you can very much tell the difference in wetness between the Pilot feed and this feed that Wing Sung came with. So to kind of close out on the Wing Sung 3013, what do I think about it? I think this could be, you know, kind of a budget 823, right? I mean, this by no means does this look or perform anywhere like a Pilot custom 823. But if you wanted to kind of have a feel of a vacuum filler, this is one of the cheapest ways to kind of try out the filling mechanism, whether or not you like it or not. And you get the heft of a vacuum filler, the feel of it, kind of while you're making your mind up whether or not you want to spend many times more for 823 or another vacuum filler. In terms of the size, it's pretty good size. Like I mentioned earlier on, dimension wise, it's a great option. The other thing which I wanted to say about this pen is it is an original design. I mean, there are elements of this pen that copy the TWSBI Vac 700, but I think this looks like an original design to me compared to the other Wing Sung, which is a vacuum filler, which is the 699. That one looks extremely similar to the 823, probably too close for my comfort. Obviously, being a vacuum filler, you get a great capacity, especially for students. You can write with this pen. I think there's about 1.5 milliliters at least in the chamber down here. You can write for a long while with, especially with that extra fine nib. And as I mentioned earlier on, the option of being able to swap with a Pilot number 5 nib is always a great one, right? Last point about this pen is the fact that how easy it is to clean, right? You can unscrew this portion of the pen down here. You can, in my particular one, like I mentioned, this back portion is seized up, so you can actually just remove the whole pen and clean it out relatively easily, right? So this was my quick look at the Wingsung 3013. By no means the best pen out there. I think other Chinese vacuum fillers, especially by companies like PenBBS, would take the quality, you know, of vacuum filler to a much higher level. So the PenBBS, which is about, okay, I didn't speak about price. This pen, you can actually get it for about $3 to $5 US. If you wanted to kind of step up to a vacuum filler, you can get a PenBBS for about 10 times that price, right? Thinking of the PenBBS 456 as an example. However, if budget is is a concern, definitely try out the 3013. Like I mentioned, once you get the pen, lube it up, and you should have a pretty reliable pen in your pen case to kind of use for a while. So that concludes my quick look on the Wingsung 3013. I hope it was useful for those of you who watch my channel. Again, if you like the video, please give me a like. I'm always open to comments on this channel, and you know, if you like the video, again, please subscribe. So thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.